Alex stared at his phone screen, thumb scrolling endlessly through social media feeds. Another day melting away into nothing. At 24, he had big dreams, but zero momentum. Tomorrow, he told himself. Tomorrow I'll start that business. Tomorrow I'll learn that skill. Tomorrow I'll change everything. His apartment told the story of a life on pause. Unpaid bills stacked on the kitchen counter, empty pizza boxes scattered around, and a guitar gathering dust in the corner. He'd bought it 6 months ago, swearing he'd become the next great musician. The strings hadn't been touched since week 2. Money was always tight. His part-time job at the coffee shop barely covered rent, let alone his dreams. But Alex had convinced himself that time was infinite. He was young, right? Plenty of years ahead to figure things out. The future felt like a distant country he'd visit someday when he was ready. That Tuesday started like any other. Alex dragged himself to work, served lattes with fake smiles, and counted down the hours until he could go home and do absolutely nothing productive. But as he walked to the bus stop after his shift, something unusual happened. An elderly man sat on the bench feeding pigeons from a small bag of breadcrumbs. His clothes were worn but clean, his face weathered by decades of living. What struck Alex wasn't his appearance, but his eyes. They held a depth that seemed to see right through him. "Mind if I sit?" Alex asked, though several other benches were empty. The old man smiled and patted the space beside him. "Course not, son. Always room for company." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the pigeons peck at the scattered crumbs. Then the stranger spoke, his voice carrying the weight of experience. "You know what I learned too late in life?" he said, not looking at Alex, but continuing to feed the birds. "Money comes and goes. Lost fortunes, made 'em back, lost 'em again. But time?" He shook his head slowly. "Time only moves in one direction." Alex felt something stir inside him, though he couldn't name it yet. "What do you mean?" The old man turned to face him fully. "I spent my 20s waiting for the perfect moment, 30s making excuses, 40s regretting the 30s. By 50, I realized I'd been treating time like it was renewable, like I could always get more of it." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a faded photograph. A young man in military uniform, barely older than Alex, stood proudly next to a beautiful woman in a wedding dress. "That's me and my Sarah, 1958. I was gonna write the great American novel, travel the world, build something meaningful, but I kept putting it off. There was always tomorrow, always next year, always someday." Alex studied the photo, seeing the hope and possibility in those young faces. What happened? Life happened, but more accurately, I let life happen to me instead of happening to life. The old man's voice grew softer. Sarah passed 10 years ago, cancer. In her final days, she didn't ask for more money or bigger houses. She asked for more time. Just a little more time to see our grandchildren grow up, to take that trip to Italy we'd been planning for 30 years. The words hit Alex like a physical blow. He thought about his own endless scrolling, his postponed dreams, his comfortable procrastination. How many hours had he wasted? How many opportunities had slipped by while he waited for motivation to strike? "The cruelest joke," the stranger continued, "is that when you're young, you have time but think you need money. When you're old, you have money but realize you need time. The secret is understanding that time is the only currency that truly matters." Alex felt tears forming in his eyes. But what if it's too late? What if I've already wasted too much? The old man chuckled, a sound both sad and hopeful. Son, you're what, 25? 30? You've got decades ahead of you. The question isn't whether you've wasted time. The question is what you're going to do with the time you have left. He stood up, brushing breadcrumbs from his coat. Every morning, you wake up with 24 hours. Rich or poor, young or old, everyone gets the same amount. The difference between success and regret isn't talent or luck. It's what you do with those hours. As the old man walked away, Alex sat frozen on the bench. The pigeons had scattered, but his mind was racing. For the first time in years, he felt the weight of time passing, not as a distant concept, but as a tangible, irreplaceable resource slipping through his fingers every second he sat still. That night, Alex couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, calculating. If he lived to 80, he had roughly 20,000 days left. 20,000 sunrises, 20,000 chances to make something of himself. The number felt both enormous and terrifyingly small. He got up and walked to his dusty guitar. His fingers fumbled with the strings, muscle memory slowly returning. The sound was awful at first, but he kept playing. For the first time in months, he wasn't thinking about tomorrow. He was fully present in this moment, this hour, this precious slice of time. The next morning, Alex made a decision that would change everything. Instead of hitting snooze 5 times, he got up at 6. Instead of scrolling through his phone, he opened a notebook and wrote down 3 goals. Learn guitar properly, start a side business, save money for the future he actually wanted. But here's what Alex discovered. Changing your relationship with time isn't about becoming a productivity machine. It's about becoming intentional. Every choice became a question. Is this moving me toward my goals or away from them? Is this the best use of this hour, this day, this week? He started small. 30 minutes of guitar practice before work, 1 hour of business research after dinner, 15 minutes of reading before bed instead of mindless scrolling. These tiny changes felt insignificant at first, but they compounded like interest in a savings account. Within 3 months, Alex could play 5 songs on guitar. Within 6 months, he'd launched a small online business selling handmade crafts. Nothing huge, but it was his. Within a year, that side business was generating enough income to quit the coffee shop and focus full-time on building something meaningful. The transformation wasn't just financial. Alex discovered that when you respect time, time respects you back. Opportunities started appearing everywhere. A chance collaboration with another musician, a client who became a mentor, a skill that opened doors he never knew existed. But the real change was internal. Alex stopped living in the future tense. Instead of "someday I'll," his vocabulary shifted to "today I will." Instead of waiting for motivation, he built discipline. Instead of hoping for luck, he created opportunities. 2 years after that conversation on the bench, Alex found himself back at the same bus stop. He was carrying a guitar case, heading to his first paid gig at a local venue. His online business was thriving, and he'd just signed a lease per a real office space. The old man wasn't there, but Alex sat on the same bench anyway. He pulled out his phone to check the time, then stopped himself. Time wasn't something to check anymore. It was something to invest. He thought about all the people still trapped in the cycle he'd escaped. Friends who complained about their jobs but never applied for new ones. Family members who talked about dreams but never took the first step. Strangers scrolling through other people's lives instead of building their own. The difference wasn't talent or luck or connections. The difference was understanding that time is the great equalizer. Everyone gets the same 24 hours. The question is, what are you building with yours? Alex opened his guitar case and started playing. A small crowd gathered, dropping coins into the case. But the real reward wasn't the money, It was the knowledge that he was finally living in alignment with his values, using his time to create something beautiful instead of consuming someone else's creation. As the sun set behind the city skyline, Alex packed up his guitar and headed home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new choices about how to spend his most precious resource. But unlike the old Alex, he was ready for them. Because he'd learned the most important lesson of all. Money can be earned back, relationships can be rebuilt, mistakes can be corrected. But time moves in only one direction. And every moment you spend waiting for the perfect time is a moment you'll never get back. The clock is ticking for all of us. The question isn't whether you have time. The question is, what are you going to do with the time you have? Your future self is counting on the decisions you make today. Don't let them down.